Today, we talk about Samuel Adams being more than a beer and about the craziness on college campuses as expressed through people like Colin Kaepernick. Next on One Nation. Hello, America. Welcome to One Nation. I'm Dr. Jake Jacobs. You know, when you ask your average high school or college student about the great founding father Samuel Adams, they don't have a clue. They'll tell you that it's a Boston lager, a beer. But the fact of the matter is Samuel Adams is considered by most historians to be the father of the American Revolution. He was an amazing founding father. He was a member of the Sons of Liberty, and he talked about the tyranny of King George III and the corruption of Parliament. And he wrote about this many places and got this information disseminated out throughout the colonies back in the 1770s. Samuel Adams came from a very interesting family, by the way, the Adams family, a fascinating family. Not that Adams family. That's the creepy and kooky family. Come on, guys, let's get up on this. That Adams family. John Adams, the voice of the Declaration of Independence, the second president of the United States of America. He was actually the first vice president. His son, John Quincy Adams, who was an abolitionist and hated slavery like his father and mother Abigail did. And his voice in the House of Representatives was gagged by the Democratic Party through a gag rule in the 1830s and 40s so he wouldn't talk about the ending of slavery in our country. And this Adams family was actually educated at Harvard University, whose logo, Veritas, means truth. Please remember that. Now, Harvard was founded in 1636 as a Christian university to teach from a classic Judeo-Christian perspective. So at Harvard, students like John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Samuel Adams, and many other luminaries in this time period, they would have had to have known Hebrew, Latin, and Greek. In fact, they could read the great Cicero, Republican senator, in Latin. They could read Aristotle and Plato in Greek, and they could even read Moses, in Hebrew. And at Harvard, they were able to develop a classic Judeo-Christian worldview that dealt with man being made in the imago Dei, the image of God, that dealt with the reality that God is sovereign, and then man, and then comes the government. So they had learned about limited government in relationship to what liberty is all about, ultimately being freedom from government harm. Now, the ideas of Sam Adams and his cousin John Adams, you can see coming out by the writings of Thomas Jefferson in our beautiful 1776 Declaration of Independence. In that document, Thomas Jefferson talks about the laws of nature and nature's God, speaks about our rights of life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness coming from our Creator, who's called in the last paragraph the supreme judge of the world. Not very popular terms in this postmodern day and age, but actual wonderful words coming out of our magnificent Declaration of Independence. So our founders, whether it be from James Madison of Virginia and James Wilson of Pennsylvania, they gave us a wonderful, in 1787, a constitutional federal republic. But let's not forget that there were many anti-federalists, or what back then was called Republicans, like a Samuel Adams, who said, wait a minute here, we need to have a guarantee of a Bill of Rights where the government cannot stop us from freedom of religion, speech, press, to peaceably assemble, and the right to petition our government. So people like Sam Adams and George Mason and Patrick Henry, the famous Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death founding father, made sure that a Bill of Rights was put into our wonderful Constitution. And so what you see is that education in America back in the day created this foundation for our nation from a Judeo-Christian perspective that allowed us to put man on a high pedestal only below God Almighty. What happened in this nation? What happened where education has been inverted and perverted? Well, towards the latter part of the 1800s, progressives, Fabian socialists, Frankfurt School Marxists, they began to come over to America. They began to infiltrate our colleges from Columbia University in New York all the way to the west coast of University of California, Berkeley. And you see this manifesting in radicalism of the 1960s. And those were the teachers of today. And so I think it's best illustrated quickly by a gentleman by the name of Colin Kaepernick. I call it the colonization of American culture. Colin Kaepernick was raised not too far away from this studio in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He was raised by a loving Christian family. You can see them here in the picture, and you'll notice something. They happen to be Americans of European ancestry. And the only reason I bring up the pigmentation of their skin is it's significant to what has happened to Colin Kaepernick, and it happened to a lot of radical movements in this country. Colin Kaepernick, as you know, was drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. So he was living in San Francisco, and he decided to audit courses at University of California, Berkeley. And at Berkeley, he was educated by what you could call neo-Marxists, cultural Marxists, and he began to develop a Marxist worldview, a socialist worldview, and he learned what we call, through the influence of the mentor of Barack Obama, Derek Bell, a Harvard law professor, critical race theory. And to make a long story short, critical race theory is really the idea that white man will perpetually be a racist towards minorities, towards black man, and that he must be fought against. And this critical race theory is a divisive movement in this nation. It really destroys Martin Luther King's wonderful dream of America being one together, joining arm in arm and hand in hand for there to be life and liberty and equality for all in this nation. So I leave with you showing you the logo of the University of California, Berkeley. It's actually the logo for all of the California system. What is it? It's right from the book of Genesis. Yahi Or, let there be light. Our nation needs the light again of the foundation of our nation, of that classic education taught and predicated from a Judeo-Christian perspective. We need our youth in this nation and across this land to go back to those righteous roots that have made our republic the greatest republic in the history of the world. A republic dedicated to a new birth of freedom for and by and of the people. So let's recapture that light, people. Let us here in this program get this information out so that we can teach about our great roots in this nation. If you thought that was cool, check out more videos on FreedomProject.com. You'll enjoy them.